Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Simplified Basic Concepts. This is my second video in the series of organizing. In my first video, I have discussed about introduction to organization, organizing and organizational structure. And here I'll be discussing about formal and informal organizational structure. Right, so let's begin with the topic. Now before going into details, let's brush up our knowledge about organizational structure. We know that organizational structure is simply the pattern of division of the roles and responsibilities of each of the employees in the organization. So the organizational structure clearly determines the roles, powers, responsibilities that are assigned to every individual and how the information flows between different levels of management, because here a hierarchical level is also shown of the members of the organization, right? So an organization can have organizational structure in various ways, but the two broad categories are formal organizational structure and informal organizational structure. Now there are various type of structures that comes under formal organizational structure, which we'll be discussing in my next video. Okay, so let's focus on formal organizational structure. So the formal organizational structure is created by managers through the process of organizing, and this helps in achievement of organizational goals. How does it help in achievement of organizational goals? Because when the roles, responsibilities of each and every individual is very clearly shown in the structure, then it becomes very easy for the employees to know what is their roles, what responsibilities they have, how much authority do they have, who is their superior, who is their subordinate. So it becomes very easy for an employee to do their job, right? Then the formal organizational structure specifies the job to be performed by each individual. It focuses on the authority, responsibility assigned to every individual. It shows the superior subordinate relationship and depicts the designation every individual has in their organization, right? Now, this is the diagrammatic representation of formal organizational structure. Now we see here that there at the top management there is CEO, who is a chief executive officer. Now under him there are three general managers. So we see here that under the CEO there are three subordinates who are general managers. Now under the general managers there are several managers, and under the managers come the team leaders of different departments. So we see here the diagrammatically hierarchical level of the employees in the management, right? And every employee here is given a designation, so which clearly says what is their roles, what responsibilities do they have, how much authority they have, right? So this diagrammatic representation or this pattern of division very easily clarifies the organizational structure. Now the features of the formal organizational structure is, as I discussed earlier, it helps in achievement of the organizational goals. How? Because here in formal organizational structure, each individual is assigned a specific job. There is a fixed authority or decision making power that every individual has. So this makes them to achieve their goals very easy, as they are very clear about their roles and responsibilities. The formal organizational structure depicts the superior subordinate relationship. And the last one is it creates a scalar chain of communication in the organization. Now, by scalar chain we mean superior subordinate relationship, that is who reports to whom. So when the scalar chain of authority is clear, the scalar chain of communication too becomes very clear, because here we see that under the CEO there are three general managers. So these general managers will be reporting to the CEO, and the managers will be reporting to the general managers, and the team leaders will be reporting to the managers. So here the level of management is being shown clearly, who will be reporting to whom is being very clearly specified. So this shows the scalar chain of authority, and when the scalar chain of authority or scalar chain of command is very clear, the scalar chain of communication too follows in the same way. And the advantages of formal organizational structure. When the roles and responsibilities of every individual is very clearly specified, so it is very easy to fix the accountability, because for management it becomes easier to find out who is inefficient employees, right? Then the second advantage of formal organizational structure is there is no overlapping of work, because the entire work which every single individual has to do is very clearly and specifically mentioned. So there are very less chances of overlapping or duplication of the work. Then third is creation of chain of command. As I've shown earlier that in formal organizational structure there is a chain of command, that is who reports to whom. This is very clearly mentioned. So a chain of command helps in specifying the superior subordinate relationship. And when the chain of command is very easy to be created in formal organizational structure, the unity of command too becomes possible. But a subordinate will report to only one superior, right? So the subordinate will have only one superior, that is the unity of command. So in formal organizational structure we saw a superior subordinate relationship, as I discussed earlier, that there is a CEO. Under the CEO there are 3 general managers. Under the general manager there are managers, and under the manager there are team leaders. So we see here a clear relationship of superior and subordinate, and it becomes very easy to find out that each subordinate here has only one superior to report, which we can see in this diagrammatic representation, right? So organizational structure which is formal in nature makes the scalar chain of command very easy to be created in the organization, and when scalar chain of command is very easily created in the organization, then unity of command can be very easily be applied to it. Advantages: it is easy to get goals, as the roles, duties, responsibilities are fixed in formal organizational structure. It is easy to set goals for each department and get all the goals achieved by achieving the organizational goals. And this becomes stability in organization, because when every individual achieves their goals, this helps in the departments to achieve their goals in a whole. And when the departments achieve their goals, then it is very easy for the organization to achieve the goals, right? Which brings stability in the organization. Now, disadvantages of formal organizational structure. The first one is delay in action. Now, as we have seen, this is a formal organizational structure, and it has different levels of management, that is top level, middle level and lower level management. Now any decision which has to be implemented in the organization has to pass through different levels of management. Let's take an example that a team leader of one department has certain decisions. So he in turn will communicate to his superior, who communicate it to his superior, who is general manager. The general manager in turn will talk to the CEO, who is the top level management, and he will decide whether the decision is to be implemented or not. So when the CEO will decide, he will again pass on the message to the general managers. The general manager will pass the message to the production manager. Then the production manager will again pass it to the team leader of the department, right? So it has many levels of management through which a certain decision has to follow. So which results in delay in action. Now, the second disadvantage is it ignores social needs of employees. Formal organizational structure does not give much importance to psychological and social needs of employees, which may lead to demotivation of the employees, because an employee is a social being, human being. He, apart from work too, needs certain psychological and social needs to be fulfilled, which is completely ignored in the formal organizational structure. Then third is reduced flexibility. The employees have certain fixed roles, responsibilities, and routine work to be followed, which reduces the flexibility of the employees' working styles, right? This gives very rigidity to their profile. Then there is reduced information flow. Every employee is being secluded in their own department. They are being more confined to their own department. So at times it happens that employees lose a sense how their roles can affect the company as a whole, right? So it means that the employee of one department cannot very freely communicate with the employee of another department. So at times it happens that they become confined to their own department, and there is not much creativity left in their profiles. That is why they are saying that there is very reduced information flows, and even if there is flow of information, there are lots of hierarchies which are to be followed, and there is a delay in the flow of information. Then another disadvantage of formal organizational structure is there is loss of innovation. Now, as the employees are very confined to their own task because they have their fixed roles and routine work to be followed, they cannot give much time to their creativity, right? Because if an employee will focus on creativity, this will hamper his routine work, to which he can come in the category of inefficient employees, because focusing on creativity will be hampering his routine work. Now, this becomes weakness for a company when the company needs to innovate or compete with other organizations when there are certain market changes, because they have a very mechanical employees, they have very routine work to follow. So in these type of employees, the innovative works are lost, which is a big disadvantage of formal organizational structure. Now, what is informal organizational structure? Now, it is just opposite of formal organizational structure, as the formal organizational structure was created by the managers, keeping in mind how to fulfill the organizational structure. Now, this informal organizational structure is not created by the organization or the managers. It is informal, unofficially created. That is, it is created very naturally when two or more people work in an organization. So due to personal relationship, due to social interactions, many people come closer to each other. Now, that is informal organizational structure, right? So this informal organizational structure is more of a social network type, and the main purpose here is to get psychological satisfaction, which we saw in the formal organization structure. There was no psychological satisfaction because it was being completely ignored there. So the informal organizational structure consists of informal grouping of people within a formal organization. That is, here no people have to be from the same department or the same management level, or their work needs to be same. There are changes of membership in most informal organizations, and many a times these informal groups plays a very strong regulatory role, that they have a very strong influence and they can regulate the behavior or work standards of the entire group of members through positive or negative means, right? Now, this is the representation of informal organizational structure. Here there is a manager, there are team leaders and employees. Now, there is no fixed hierarchy or level of management in this informal organizational structure. Neither there are any roles or responsibilities mentioned, or authority is being assigned, right? So there is no scalar chain of command, no unity of command. It's more of a social group of employees who are working in an organization together, irrespective of the department or irrespective of the position which they are having in the organization. Okay. Now, features of informal organization is it is created automatically. No manager or no management puts in any efforts to create these social groups. Now, this organizational structure gives psychological satisfaction to the employees. there is no fixed path of flow of authority or communication in these structure. And the sources of information, right? So the information from where it is coming is unknown in such informal structure. So employees communicate very freely, right? At times it happens in organization that the employees does not speak what they actually feel because they are scared of their management, because they feel that the superior may not react positively to their suggestions or ideas or whatever thoughts they are putting forward. But in informal organization, this fear is not there because source of information is unknown many times in informal organizational structure. Then the informal organizational structure influence the work environment. So this informal group working in the organization has very strong influence on all the employees who are working in the group, right? Now, advantages. The advantage of informal organization is that there is a very speedy communication in this group, because there is no scalar chain, there is no fixed rules, no authority, no superior subordinate relationship, so one can directly communicate with the other person. In informal organization, there are social groups, right? So the communication between them is very informal, that is, there is no superior subordinate relationship. So each person of the group or each employee in this group communicates very informally with the other person, which gives satisfaction to their psychological and social needs, and it helps the employee to be motivated at the workplace, which is very important. And there is a very precise feedback in informal structure. So through informal structure, the top level managers can know the actual feedback of the employees on various policies and plans, right? Because in informal organizational structure, we saw that the source of information is not known. So the employees very clearly and very precisely give their feedback on any policies or plans which the organization wants to implement. So the top levels at times use this informal groups only to know the precise feedback about their plans and policies, right? That is why these informal organizations are of very strategic use in organization, because the top management uses it to gather support of employees and improve their performances too, right? Now, there are certain disadvantages too of these informal organizational structures in the organization. The first one is resistance to change. It is very difficult for managers to bring change in the organization if the informal organization is against them. So if the group of people who are informally connected with each other are resisting the change, then the management will have to face a tough time in applying those changes. Then the second disadvantage is it creates rumors. Sometimes informal organization becomes a disturbing force which can go against organizational interest. Example, they are very strong in spreading rumors in the organization because the source is never known. So anybody can freely spread the rumors, which is one of the disadvantages of informal organization. Then there is absence of specialization. It is based on mutual relationship. So there is always absence of specialization when these people unite and talk. In informal organization, there is more emphasis to the individual interests, right? So informal structure gives more importance to satisfaction of individual interests, and they at times ignores the organizational interest, right? And the final one is unsystematic working. Informal structure does not form a structure for smooth working of an organization. So informal organizational structure is just to satisfy psychological and emotional needs of an employee. With this structure, an organization cannot aim to accomplish its organizational goals. An organization with an informal organizational structure will not be able to achieve effectively and efficiently its organizational goals, right? Because In informal organization, there is no clear departmentation. The roles and responsibilities of employees are not clearly mentioned. The authority is not clearly mentioned. The superior subordinate is not clearly mentioned. So this structure cannot work smoothly for an organization. Now, the difference between formal and informal organizational structure. We very well know that the formal organizational structure is created by the managers to achieve the common goal of the organization, whereas the informal organizational structure is an interpersonal relationship between the members of organization. In formal organization structure, there is the task, authorities, responsibilities are very clearly mentioned, but in informal organizational structure, the tasks are completed using interpersonal relationship. There is no clear mention of the responsibilities, tasks and authorities. Decisions are made by the top management in formal organizational structure, whereas decisions are made collectively by the members in the informal organizational structure. The formal organizational structure is created by managers or top management, and the informal organization is a structure which is deliberately made by the members, that is, it is a social group. Objective of formal organizational structure is task accomplishment, and the objective of informal organizational structure is to satisfy its member and meet their social and psychological needs, right? Formal organizational structure has a hierarchical levels which are shown in its structure, and informal organizational structure has a flat structure because there are no levels or hierarchies in it. A chain of command, unity of command is used for communication in formal organizational structure, whereas informal organizational structure uses unofficial form of communication. So with this, we come to the end of this topic, which is formal and informal organizational structure. In my next video, I'll discuss about types of formal organizational structure. So do like and share my channel, which is Simplified Basic Concepts. Thank you.